I how to say this? I feel personally attacked right now because I was just like Oraya. I was like, what are you doing? I was Oraya, bitch. Like the first person worked on me. I turned into this senseless person who doesn't have a brain or something. Hey guys, Nina here.
Hey everyone, I'm Anya.
And welcome to our podcast. So, today we'll be discussing The Serpent and the Wings of Night by Carissa Broadbent. I've been excited to talk about this book because I really like it. At least when I read it, I was super excited about it. And also, I recommended it in our yearly wrap up episode. So, I'm happy that Anya has finally finished it, and I'm really curious about your opinion, Anya. So, I guess I would like for us to start with that. Just like give us a general overview of what you thought.
All right. Yay. Okay, I am excited about this episode, but I am also a tiny bit scared because it's always the sort of thing where, if you recommend a book to a friend, you want them to love it as much as you do? So I'm on the other end of that, and I didn't love a book as much as my friend. I'm like, them, they're gonna hate me. So that's why I'm a tiny bit scared today because you know, I had a good time reading it, and there are many things I enjoyed, but there are also things that I felt like had potential that wasn't totally fulfilled. I mean, I'm not sure, how many books does this author have, what the writing process was like for her, but I don't know. I feel like there were things that could have been done better, in my personal opinion. And there are also things that I absolutely want your thoughts on and your opinion on, because I'm genuinely not sure if I am the idiot who didn't get something or missed something. I was so sleep deprived this week, by the way, so I fully take responsibility for not getting something because I was sleep deprived. But at the same time, I also guessed a lot of plot twists and shit. So I couldn't have been that much of a dumbass. But I could have been that much of a dumbass. I'm not sure. So I'm excited to go through everything and everything that we think.
Yeah, I guessed some plot twists too, but I didn't mind them that much, I guess, because there are also plot twists that I didn't guess. So I was like satisfied because it was kind of like a balance. It wasn't
Hmm.
entirely predictable. And by the way, I don't know if you know this, but this author is actually an indie author. She's self-published.
Hmm.
So I guess I kind of gave her the benefit of the doubt in that way too. And I think this is like her first big series that she did. Or I know she has another one too, but I'm not sure if that one came after or if this one was first. But like, anyways, okay, yeah. So I guess I want us to start with the prologue just because I think it was written so well. It was like from Vincent's perspective during the war when he found Oraya, and honestly, that prologue really sucked me in. Personally, I just like the way it was written. I felt it was like very poetically written, like, I don't know, like a poem or something. And I love that quote when he said that the king did not know then that his greatest love would also be his ruination, nor that either would come in the form of a tiny, helpless human child. I don't know. I'm just a sucker for this kind of writing. It sounds very like fairy tale like. You know what I mean? I don't know. There's something about it that I really love. So immediately when I read this, I was just hooked because what does that mean? Why would this child be his ruination? What was going to happen? And I was really happy about the fact that he took in this human little girl, and it seemed that was like such a big thing because all of the other vampires that were around were super confused of what he's doing. So this obviously didn't happen normally. And the way he was described, he also sounded like he's a king. He's obviously very dangerous, blah, blah, blah. So I was like, why is he taking this girl in? What's about her that he likes so much? And also, I loved how he called her the little serpent. And I really liked immediately how the child was like so tough. She bit his little finger and she was scared, but she was still so, I don't know, so tough. Like this whole prologue, I really, really liked. So, yeah, I want to hear your thoughts about it, I guess, because I liked it so much.
All right. I also enjoyed the prologue. In fact, my favorite parts from this book were definitely the interludes that were written from Vincent's
Yes.
perspective. This was the best writing of this book, exactly for the reason you said. They were a bit more poetic, they were a bit more fairy tale, they were from the third person, and it felt, like you're reading a story that is presented in this magical way, right? And then after the prologue ends, you get thrown into the first person's perspective from Oraya's side, and that is what really threw me off. This going constantly back and forth from third person to the first person, and the third person being so magical and fairy tale, and then the first person being, and honestly, that could have been on purpose, and that could have been the entire point of it. But for me, it kind of threw me off how we immediately went into just quite simple language, or I don't even know how to describe it, but Arai's perspective was very much like, here I am, I'm doing things, fuck, shit, fuck. Anyway, like it was that versus the very like flowery poetic parts that wasn't doing it for me. Like I wish the entire book was written just from the third person. I feel like that could have been so much better. I in general prefer third person books, especially in like fantasy. I feel like it flows better because that just like gives the freedom for the narrator to like describe things better, or to like really do those like flowery, like beautiful language stuff, because when it's from the first person, that kind of can throw you off. So I don't know, I did not love the balance of that, how it was done, but I was intrigued by the prologue, especially like this line that you mentioned right now. I didn't even like notice until now that it was actually like foreshadowed from the beginning that she would be his greatest revelation. I kind of forgot about that line, and in fact she was. So that was cool, and I kind of wish we stayed in the third person the whole time. It would have been so much better, but yeah.
Exactly. Like, oh my gosh, the fact that it was foreshadowed. And I just remembered the line from the beginning because it really caught my attention because I really wanted to know what the fuck was going to happen. And also, just another quote that I have to read now. I'm sorry, a bit lengthy, but still, it's from the prologue. So, hundreds of years later, historians and scholars would look back upon this moment, this decision that one day would topple an empire. What a strange choice, they would whisper. Why would he do this? Why, indeed? After all, vampires know better than anyone how important it is to protect their hearts, and love, understand, is sharper than any stake. Oh, I live for these kinds of storytelling ways, just like you've explained it right now. So magical and like fairy tale, like I love it.
Hmm.
But I guess I understand where you're coming from, that going from this third person fairy tale like perspective to, yeah, a very simple way of thinking and speaking and all of that can confuse you or just throw you off. Honestly, it didn't happen to me. I don't know. I guess I really like the first person writings just in general. I don't know if I prefer it over the third person. I feel like I like both for different reasons, because
Hmm.
sometimes when I read it from the first person, I feel like I'm the main hero. You know what I mean? So that's why I like the first person, because I'm actually more in it for some reason. It's like I'm
Hmm.
reading about myself. But when it's from the third person, you're obviously reading about someone else. So actually, the first book that I really got invested in was written from the first person. So after that, once I, started reading from the third person, I actually was thrown off by that. So with me, is the other way around. And I think perhaps I didn't think about this before, but now that you've explained it the way you did, perhaps this was done on purpose. Maybe the author really wanted us to go from this like ancient vampire who's been around forever, and his way of thinking is probably a lot more mature and elegant and whatnot, and it is like written from the third person, so it's his story like from the outside perspective, but
Hmm.
you really want to be completely in it with her. And she's also this like young girl, she's what, 23 years old. So of course the words that she uses, fuck, and the way she thinks, it's
Yeah.
more raw. When we think about things in real life, we're not like thinking in a fairy tale way, we're thinking normally. So
Yeah,
I think that
exactly.
maybe she probably wanted to do that on purpose, that distinction. It just depends, like, yeah, I guess on your taste, if you like that or not. And I
Hmm.
honestly did like it. I didn't mind it. And I also thought that, some quotes that were, in her perspective, like, were also really good. I'll probably read some examples later. But yeah, I wasn't thrown off by it, honestly, but I understand where you're coming from for sure.
Totally. I'm glad that that wasn't a problem for you and that you enjoyed it because that's awesome. Yeah, I mean, thinking back, of course, I think there are many books from the first person that I really, really enjoy, especially I think for contemporary sort of novels, like romance novels. I prefer that. But just like when it's a fantasy, it's a bit more fairy tale to have this like third person for some reason, right? And it's also the fact that it was switching. Like it was the same with like the fucking Christmas novella thingy from Akadar. Like that threw me off back there too.
I remember, yeah.
Like until you notice it, it doesn't bother you. But like once you notice it, you can't get it out of your head, right? And then like you're like, why is this happening? What is the purpose? And I feel like you're right that there is a purpose. I think, I would assume that she has had an idea behind it, and that was like the part of like setting up that atmosphere and then throwing us off. So yeah, for me personally, I just like didn't connect with it in the way that I believe she wanted me to, right? And yeah, Oraya had really nice beautiful quotes as well, but that again is a bit of a limitation of the first person where like now I feel like I'm a nitpicking little idiot, so that's just like such a minor complaint, but it did feel like sometimes because some of the quotes were so poetic, I was like, no one is taking the time amid a fucking battle to think in such poetic beautiful language on the spot, so if there was like an omnipresent narrator and those quotes were coming from this narrator, then you have this benefit of the doubt, whatever, that someone is telling you the story, and that's why it is like that. Plus, I think you did tell me a lot of those quotes in the Christmas episode, so like all the most beautiful quotes I saw coming, and like I loved them when you told them to me, and I think I was like spoiled already on them as they were coming, and they didn't like punch me as hard as they did like as we were filming a few months ago.
Well, I'm glad that you remember them. I mean, it means that you kind of really like them when I read them to you. So I'll take that as a win, even though I did spoil them to you for sure. Yeah, I get you. I get you. You know how I imagine this like narrative in a way? You know, when you have TV shows and there's like a narrator in the back who speaks like in this fairy tale way, and then the show is just kind of like, normal. The characters interact in a normal way, but the narrator sometimes just comes in and he says something, or he's just at the beginning and then the end. And this is how I
Mhm,
imagined it in this book. Like it would play out like that. You would have a narrator that perhaps starts the episode in a poetic way. He gives like a bit of an introduction to the episode, but then the
mhm,
episode and the characters, they just do what they do in a normal regular way, and then perhaps he finishes it and that's it. So I don't know, like I think this is just really personal preference. And yeah, but now that we've got that out of the way, I want to go into Aurea a little bit. I felt like she as a character was really fascinating to me. I liked her inner battle, like how she really doesn't feel like she belongs with the vampires, but at the same time she also doesn't belong with the humans. She was raised by this vampire king, a badass. He taught her how to protect herself in a world that obviously is designed to kill her. But at the same time, she's so disconnected from the human society that she doesn't even know how she would interact with them. It was so interesting that she, for example, protected them whenever she went like into the night and she killed those vampires in the streets. But then she like encounters this human family and she literally just freezes. She feels like these are like animals or something. She doesn't even know what she would say to them. And she says it like this: the ugly truth was that perhaps a part of me was disgusted by them, the same way I was disgusted by all of my human flaws. And yet, another part of me, maybe the part that remembered I had once lived in a house just like this one, longed to venture closer. And I really like that inner battle that she has with herself. And even when she went with Rain to that bar, he was so shocked that she's lived here her entire life and she's never even been in a human bar. Like he couldn't believe it, and she was human herself. So I really, really like that. What did you think about this whole like inner battle that she had with herself and her human parts?
mhm. I think Oraya, I hope I'm pronouncing her name correctly. Oraya, she is a very, very interesting character. We have this character who, yeah, is like really battling different sides of herself, feeling like she doesn't fully belong anywhere. her whole life she was sort of sheltered, sort of manipulated, taken from her family, but also sort of giving all of those privileges and sort of this amazing princessy life, but also ripped away from her family, and now she's not fully belonging to any world. And, even though this is a fantasy read about vampires, there are parts of that are totally relatable. I actually felt like her struggles, her thoughts, there were like many things that I could relate to, even with the way that she feels like she doesn't really belong, but can never return to where she's from and doesn't belong there either. It's sort of such a contradictory, messy existence that it's very cool to have a main character like that. I mean, she's a fucking killer. She like needs to go and fucking murder a couple of vampires to just like relax before bed. You know what I mean? Like that's fucked
Yeah.
up. That's messy. And I I actually think that yes, her battle was presented in this book, but I feel like we could have gotten even deeper. Like I wanted to really get all of those emotions and existential crises, all of those things that I feel like we got some, but it could have been even more, like punching on our emotions or something, because there was definitely potential to delve even more into this character, I feel like, and everything that she's been through. Maybe it could have affected her even deeper in all of her decisions. It still did, but it could have been even deeper. That's honestly how I feel. Yeah.
Really, that's interesting because for me, it felt like it really caught this perfect balance between the
Hmm.
struggle and also like not. I feel like if it went even deeper, it would have been too much because at the same time, I also want plots to be happening. I also want action. I
Mm.
also want romance, but at the same time, I want an inner struggle. And I feel like I got all of this here in this book in just the right amount. When we come to the romance, we'll talk about it later, but also the romance aspect I felt like was really well done. The slow burn was done in a proper way, but at the same time it wasn't too much in your face, at least in my opinion. I don't know, just all aspects of this book, that's why I like it so much, for me at least. It
Mhm.
felt like the balance was just there. I feel like everything that she did, everything that she was affected by her being human but living in a vampire
Yes.
society, and I think that was really explained really well. And it was mentioned so many times, how she felt like prey. For example, a part of me still always was hiding because I was never going to be anything other than prey. And that's why she really wanted to win this Kajari so that she could get this ability so that she could be strong. And it was also so interesting because, like, sure, yeah, Vincent, he was kind of manipulating her in a lot of ways, but at the same time, the world that they live in, their reality is that if you're human and if you don't know how to defend yourself, if you don't have these abilities, you're nothing other than prey in reality. So like it wasn't her exaggerating. That's what I mean. It wasn't, oh, I'm poor
No,
baby
no.
Oraya. No, I know that you know that too, but I'm just like touching upon the topic.
Yeah.
And I really like that too. It is just the way it is. She knows how it is. She accepts it. It felt like in the Six of Crows too, where they just accept the way it is. They don't exaggerate it, but they're like also don't kind of feel sorry for themselves. They just want to do something about it and change things. And I felt like Oraya was similar in that way, and I really liked that about her too.
Yeah, I also agree that she wasn't whiny, she wasn't all woe is me. She had struggles, but those struggles I feel like were relatable and were understandable. So no, 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 she never like got on my nerves or anything. I mean, there are a couple of times where I sort of forthwing flashbacks where I guessed the plot twist before she did, so I was like a bit like, come on, be faster. But this is like the only time I was annoyed at her. Other than that, yeah, like I wanted even a bit more deeper. I wanted to be even sadder for her, but that's just me. But yeah, no, I do like her.
I mean, for me, it's like, I don't know how much sadder it can get. Like, she lost all of her family. Her whole city
Hmm.
that she wanted to return to was destroyed. She had to kill her lover. She realized that her father was lying to her, like in a lot of ways, even though he did love her in his own freaking weird way. I don't know. I don't know
Hmm.
what else could have happened that it would be even more sad. I don't know.
Oh yeah, just the writing to get a little bit
Oh,
even more into her head
mhm, mhm.
in regards to all of those situations. That's all. But oh my gosh, yeah. I mean, her relationship with Vincent also so complicated, so
So good.
interesting. right? But yeah, but did you think from the beginning that there was something special about her, or did you just really think that, he came across this girl and was just like, okay, I'm a dad now, or how did you feel?
I thought that he liked her because she was a survivor. When we got the prologue, I imagined him, noticing this little girl. He came just because he was curious. Then he saw, how she was biting him, how she was still fighting, and I think that was something that like really intrigued him about her. So I guess for me it was like maybe he saw her as a little bit of an experiment, but then he just like
Okay,
once he got to know her, he kind of just fell in love with her. He couldn't help himself. So he got this idea in his head that maybe like if she wins this Kajari, they can be like equals. But at the same time, she can't like just win it and be like, yeah, I want to get these powers, because then he would feel threatened by her. So that's why he wanted to make her, I forgot the word for it, but like his equal, they would be like connected. He
I got
wanted
it.
that connection so that she could never be able to kill him. So for me, it just kind of made sense, all of it. I didn't think that she was actually his daughter. Like really, I didn't see that coming.
Okay, interesting. I had like in the back of my mind that maybe she could be his daughter because he kept repeating like, no, you would never be one of them. Every time she talked about humans, he was like, no, you wouldn't ever be like that, or something. Like there was one
Yeah, I
sentence,
remember. Yeah.
yeah, that he totally empathized. So I was like, no, there is something different about her. And then once she started being able to use her magic like really powerfully, I thought that 100% he sensed that magic in her somehow, and that's why he stopped and that's why he took her in. Because that just made sense. She's a human, but she has this super powerful magic. Probably as a vampire king, he could sense that, and that's his plan to get someone that powerful on his side. I think it was only once Nyaxia said that, oh, you have your father's eyes or something like that. I was like, oh, yeah, but no, actually, he is her dad. Okay, whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I was from almost the start looking at it as a relationship where Vincent was looking for something from her. It wasn't just like this connection. I thought that he sensed some sort of power and wanted to like hone it, and not just like he just wanted to rescue a human girl. Like I felt like there was something deeper there.
Yeah, for me, I'm a more of a romantic in that way. I really like characters that, are evil, I suppose, like bad people, but they have a weak spot for that one
Yes.
person. And I really wanted to see their relationship like that. So that's why I saw it the way I did. But yeah, like once she was able to use her abilities, when she pushed Rain out of the window, that's when
Hmm.
I was like, oh shit. So he probably knows this. Like, of course he knows. He wanted to use it. But I never for once thought that Vincent didn't love her. I always thought,
Hmm.
and I still do think, that Vincent always loved her. But he also at the same time saw something that he could get out of the whole situation. But I think that at the end, his love really did kind of prevail. I think that's the case, but we'll get to that later. And also, I mean, I realized, yeah, that he was her dad the moment Nyaxa said that she has his eyes. That was the moment that I was like, oh my gosh, how did I not see this
Oh my god.
before?
Hmm.
Because like his eyes were described, and I'm pretty sure the way she looks was also described, and I never connected the two dots, before, that they have similar eyes. So I was like, well, shit. I don't know, I guess I was really fixed upon the fact that her hair was black and his was blonde. I mean,
Hmm.
so different. I don't know why I fixed on the hair, but like, that was what I remembered. I didn't remember the color of their eyes. But yeah, no, that was a shocker for me, and I really loved it. And when Niaxia said what she said, I wasn't whatever. I gasped. I fully gasped. Oh my god, he is actually her dad. Oh my gosh. And I was like screaming, and I was like so out of it, and I was so happy about it because yeah, I don't know. And the parts where you mentioned that he said you will never be like them, I also never thought of it, as okay, she's something more. I just thought of it, like I said, that he really cares about her. So he would never allow her to be put in a position where she would have to fight for her life like that. That's what I thought. I didn't,
Hmm.
again, I was more romanticizing it more. You thought about it more like from realistic approach, in a way, like people obviously take advantage of other people, while I'm like, no, she's just special to him.
Yeah, I see it. I think I was comparing it a little bit to a few other books, a few other characters that I've read recently, where They were kind of in a similar position to her. I mean, I don't know if this will be in the episode, but like in Babel by Aref Kwang, we have this main character, Robin, and he is Chinese, and this English merchant, whatever, like took him into England, and it turned out that he is his dad. And that guy is fully a villain. He's fucked up. Like Robin was literally just like a science experiment to him. Like he never saw him as a son. He never even called him that. And in my head, because I read this so recently, I was comparing those two situations. So I could kind of see that because he took her in, he either sent some power or maybe he was his daughter. Like 1% of me believed that. Yeah, as opposed to Babel, I agree with you that I think he truly loved her. There was a part of him that truly loved her. But there was one quote that I think was really good when Oraya thought he loved her in spite of herself. He loved her for the parts of her that he can change or mend. And that, first of all, written really well. And second of all, probably true to how he saw her. While there was also a part of him that just like loved her unconditionally, there was also another part of him that was definitely seeing her as a tool or something that he could make into whatever he wanted. And yeah, that was definitely an internal battle for him. And at the end,
Yeah.
yeah, I feel like the part of him that just loved her won. But also I did feel really bad for her at a lot of moments because there was still like that part that manipulated her whole life essentially into being that
Yeah.
warrior person. Yeah.
Yeah, it
Hmm.
is. I told you in the yearly wrap up episode that their relationship is so complex. Like, you understand, and yet you're like, fuck. And
Hmm.
I don't know. I just love Vincent so much as a character. As a character, I mean, let's distinguish this, you know.
Sure.
I know he's a bad person, but as a character, he's just so interesting. I want to read more about him. And I was actually sad that he died for that reason because I wish we could get more from him as a character. I
Hmm.
like still secretly hope we'll get like a novella where we get his perspective or something about how he met her mom or something, you know? That would be
Hmm.
super cool. But yeah, everything you said, I agree. And we'll get to Vincent and Araya a little bit more later. But
Hmm.
now I guess I would just like for us to a little bit discuss this whole world. For a second here, I just want to explain the Kajari and everything. So pretty much Kajari is like this tournament in which every vampire can participate and there's one sole survivor, one winner, and he can like ask the goddess Neaxia for one wish to be granted. And gods obviously exist in this world. They walk amongst us. They're real. They know it. It's not just like in their heads. And also, like, this world, vampire world, is kind of separated between the House of Night, which is basically the house that Vincent, well, he's the king. Then we have the House of Blood, right? Which
Hmm.
are blood vampires. They can control your blood, for example, make it boil and shit. And then you have the House of Shadow. They can like read minds, or they like have something to do with mind control, something like that. But we don't know much about these two other houses. We learn a little bit more in the second book. So these first two books focus around the House of Night. Then the second two books will focus around one of the other houses, and the third, etc. So it's gonna be like that, and that's when we'll learn more about those. But yeah, the House of Night is basically separated between the Rishan and the Hiyaj vampires. So Vincent
Hmm.
is basically Hiyaj. The Hiyaj have like bat-like wings, while the Rishan, they have feathered wings. So that's like the physical distinction between the two. And they're at war. They have been since forever. And what else? Vampires also in this world, they have abilities. Like, for example, Vincent, he has Asteris, which is basically just like a superpower that not every vampire has. And also Rain has this too. And like they can manipulate magic, but some are better at it, some are not that good. It seems that humans are able to manipulate magic too. It seems that in this world magic just is, but just the strength of how you can manipulate it differs between
Hmm.
individuals. That's why, like, supposedly Araya could just like bring a little bit of light before she realized that, you know, why she could do it was. But it seems that like this gave me the idea that it is normal that humans can also just manipulate a little bit of magic if they wish, but like not that much, I
Hmm.
guess. Vampires are more pronounced in it. And I think it was even said in the book, vampires are just better at it, something like that. They're more in touch with it. So that's basically the gist of the world, right? Did I miss something?
I think that's it. I mean, there are also human kingdoms in this world besides the vampire houses, but we also did not learn much about it, just that there's different parts of this world that have different, probably, ways of life than what we learned about so far.
Yeah, in the novella, so the
Hmm.
novella comes after this, you get a little bit of more insight into the humans. So just so you know, humans in this world are essentially just cattle, they literally have no worth other than being food for the vampires. So I like how brutal this book was in that way. Really, they just really are meat. It was described in a very dark way. And listeners, if you watch the movie Underworld, or is it Underworld? I think it's Underworld. It's basically also a vampire movie, and it's really, really
Mm.
dark too. And you have vampire hunters and all of that shit. And like that's how I imagine this world, just super dark and gloomy and depressing. Yeah, like that. So, like I said, Oraya, she wants to enter the Kajari so that she could be Vincent's like parabetai in a way, like we have it with
Yes.
everyone. That's essentially it. They'll be
Hmm.
connected, they'll be able to share each other's abilities, and essentially they
Hmm.
won't ever be able to kill each other or hurt each other because they'll be connected. So yeah, she wants to do that. She loves Vincent, Vincent loves her, blah blah. So there's like this party to which Vincent allows her to go. So the thing is that Araya, as she lived here, she was never allowed to go to certain events because vampires would just smell her and want to eat her. And this time she could go because he wanted to like show her who her, competitors will be. And there was this moment, the first time she actually saw rain, but she wasn't aware that it was rain that I really liked. So he was basically standing across the room, and he was like staring at this painting, that was of a Rishan warrior falling from the sky. And I just had such a good visual of this painting, and I was like, fuck, I want this painting in my room. I don't know, I really, really liked it. Like an angel falling from the sky.
Hmm.
And she really had like a connection to this painting because it was the painting that really resonated with her. So she basically said, I knew what it felt like to be powerless, and this single fallen Rishan, cradled by wings that could not fly, reaching for a savior who would not reach back, it was the only indication I'd ever seen that vampires could know what it was like to be powerless too. Just another strong quote, in my opinion. And it was interesting because she noted how this vampire, he was just staring at this painting while no one really gave it a second glance. And he looked at her from across the room. He had this dark reddish hair, and I just knew immediately, okay, this will probably be her love interest. I was excited about it because the way she described him, it was like he stood out from the other vampires. He was just
Hmm.
different. There was something about the way he carried himself that was just different. And it wasn't like the sleek elegance that vampires
Hmm.
had. His was more like rough and, more real. And I really like that. And I like Rain. I like Rain a lot. Okay, so yeah, what did you think about this? What did you think about Rain? Let's just focus on Rain in general.
What did I think about Rain? Yeah, I mean, duh. So obvious that he would be her love interest. Not that I'm mad at that. Yeah, immediately he was described as more flawed. I think his appearance wasn't this like perfect, timeless beauty of vampires, but it was a bit more real. I also liked that he has a bit of a sense of humor. I actually wish that there was a bit more of those like funny banter moments because I feel like they had like good banter in those like 3 seconds that they did it. And I like a guy with a sense of humor, so that was good. It was good that he wasn't just like this pretentious, powerful vampire, but he felt a bit more real. So I liked that. I From the start when he, approached her to be an ally, work with him, whatever, I totally knew that he had ulterior motives. I was like, I'm not going to immediately buy whatever he's selling. I will be suspicious of him because this is weird. Why is he totally, completely defending her from the start, whatever? But then I totally like left my head. I was like, no, he just likes her. He just likes her from the start. That's it. And like I completely forgot to like doubt him after a while. You know what
Yeah,
I mean?
I know.
Yeah, honestly, when did you figure out that he was turned and that Misha was also turned, I suppose? Because that was obvious to me, like from the
Yeah,
start.
it was obvious to
Yeah.
me too because they were so different from other vampires. So I
Hmm.
was like, they must be turned. And also, then, like, what really confirmed it for me just 100% was how he really liked watching the sunlight and just like, being in the sunlight. Like, what vampire would like that? He must have felt it at one point, right? How it felt good to be out on the sun. So that was like what really confirmed it. But I wasn't angry at the fact that Araya didn't get it as fast, just because she never met like a turned vampire, I guess. Oh, she did actually. She did meet one.
Yeah,
Huh, I forgot about that. Yeah, her boyfriend, he was turned, wasn't he? I don't
true.
know. Now that I think about it, I know that while reading it, I wasn't that mad. I wasn't like, "Oh, Aurea, come on!" Like, it's obvious, right? I don't know why though. I guess because she was just so distrustful all the time. She just couldn't comprehend that there were like vampires that could be like nice, and he was so powerful. At the same time, he had the steries. Misha, she also had these abilities. I guess she just kind of couldn't understand that like turned vampires in a way could be as strong or something. I don't even know. I just know that I didn't mind it. That's all that I can remember for now. But I don't understand my reasoning behind it, or if I even had the reasoning. Maybe I was just along for the ride, and I was just like, I don't care.
Okay, okay, yeah. I feel like I was a tiny bit annoyed because there was like a sentence that it didn't even occur to her that they could be turned. And with how obvious the clues were, if she even like thought that, okay, maybe this is a possibility, but it's so unbelievable that's probably not, then I probably wouldn't be that annoyed. Or if the author made it a bit less obvious, you know what I mean? Gave us a bit less hints, and then I would also be surprised at the same moment where Orion was, and that would also be cool. But it was cool to see how turned vampires navigate that world. So I enjoy that we have characters like that are like so important. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I agree. Maybe she could have given us a little less hints, but even if we got less hints, I would want her to include the part of the sunlight, because I
Hmm.
just really imagine that like this big bad warrior, standing and just like chilling in the sun. I don't know. I imagine that like a painting in my head. And yeah,
Hmm.
Rain has my heart. And like you said when you explained how you like him, I couldn't agree more with you. I like his swagger. He's very charismatic. He knows how to charm people. He knows how to talk. He has like a really good sense of humor, and I really like that about him. But yeah, from the get-go, I was also like, shit, of course he wants something. Like, why would he be so nice to her? Why would he like help her? But like you said, I also eventually I just forgot that he might have like a secret motive. And I was also, I kind of understood that he might be intrigued and fascinated by her, this human girl that like this vampire king took under his wing. Of course, I would be curious too. I would want to know
Hmm.
what the fuck this is, what's so special about her. I would want to like get to know her too for that reason. Like, that would be motivation enough, right? But at the same time, Oraya is so interesting. So how could he not like her, And yeah, like basically the moment he approached her when oh, yeah, that was so sad, by the way, when her friend, what was her name, Alana, she died.
Ilana?
Oh,
Yeah.
Ilana, yeah. That was so sad because I liked Ilana from the get go when we met her.
Hmm.
I liked the way she was described, like this badass older woman who doesn't give a fuck,
Hmm.
who just does what she does because she doesn't want to live a boring life. So that was really interesting. So it was sad that she died the way she did. If at least would have been quick. But no, she really suffered. I mean, the way it was described, vampires basically ate her and she was still alive while they were eating her. So, it's such a brutal world. And the fact that, Aurea had to find her like that. And she took the gift that Ilana had for her, the scarf. She took it from her hand, she had it with her, and then she carried it around everywhere, and the cigarettes. And I don't know, that was also really pretty. Throughout the story, she just kind of always remembered her and she wanted to smell her. That was sad. But yeah, that was the moment when he kind of approached her. He wanted to tell her, like, no, don't go there, you'll get killed. And I was like, why is he helping her? That was when Rhea was kind of annoying me. He told her, like, you need an ally. And she was basically dying in that garden. And she was, like, still being stubborn. And then, like, at the end, when she was literally at her deathbed, she kind of crawled up the stairs to their room. I was like, well, that took you a while, right? I mean, like, you almost died, bitch. But at the same time, of course, she won't trust him. Like, so complex. So complex.
Right. So I actually really love Ilana too. I think she's one of the coolest characters in this book. Yeah, I'm sad that she died almost immediately. I mean, on one hand, I am really happy with the fact that we almost immediately jumped into action. We got just enough to get the gist of what this world is, what everyone's relationships are. Okay, let's go. Let's go have a vampire squid game, whatever. Like, that was cool. I love it. But at the same time, I like Ilana so much that I wish we could have seen more of her. Maybe we could have gotten a bit more flashbacks of how she and Oraya spent their time. I feel like there were a couple, but I just got attached to her, so it could have been even cooler if we got a bit more. Also, she like mentioned pineapples, and Oraya was like, "What the fuck is that? Did you make this word up?" So now I'm thinking, who is Ilana? What secrets does she have? Why does she know pineapples when nobody in this world knows pineapples? What's happening? Or is Oraya just this shelter that she never had a pineapple? That could also be the case. I don't know. But it could be a hint to something, right? So, yeah, it was so sad that she was killed immediately in those fucking games. And then Rain was like holding her back and she like stabbed him. And from the beginning, he was already like trying to save her. And I was totally suspicious. I was like, what is his deal? What's his problem? He doesn't know her. Even if she's, the prettiest girl he's ever seen, I don't know, it's a bit cheesy for me if that was like the only reason he was trying to save her. So I was like more leaning into being suspicious of him. You said that you were actually annoyed that she wasn't immediately wanting to be his ally. She wasn't immediately on board. I actually love that. I actually think that she was smart to just like not trust immediately the dude that's like mysteriously so obsessed with you and like wants
True,
something
yeah.
clearly. I actually totally thought that, yeah, go talk to Vincent first, like figure it out, like what's going on. Yeah, I think she made the right choice because it could have so easily been a trap. And then she only allied when she had no other choice and she was literally dying. No, I kind of feel like it's smart to do that. Maybe I would have done the same. I don't know. Yeah, I actually wasn't annoyed. I thought this was quite smart thinking in this sort of a competition where everyone fights to the death, and only one survives.
No, you're right. You're right. I don't think I was like annoyed in the normal sense either. I just was like, fuck, girl, you're dying. Like, you need allies. And anyway, regardless, she would need allies anyway. So, why not like try to
Mhm.
ally yourself with this super powerful dude who has hysteries? But, like, of course, I get, yeah, that you wouldn't trust him. That's true. Yeah, I'll focus a little bit now on the romance. Is so good, I think, because for me, when you have like slow burn romances, but they're not really slow burn, like because the main characters they barely spend any time together. Like for example, Fourth Wing, they barely even like communicated. It just all of a sudden it just happened. All of a sudden
Mhm.
they were just in love, they were kissing. But here it felt natural because they were like forced into spending a lot of time together. They became allies, they were living in the same apartment, they were training together. And later on when we find out what we find out about Rain, it makes sense that he would have this curiosity about her and that he would want to use her against Vincent. So all of it just like makes sense at the end. So I really like that they were just training together and how he followed her to the city to see what was she up to and all of those little moments. I just felt like their relationship progressed really naturally. From the beginning they were like really suspicious of each other, then when they started like actually working together and training together and when they became equals in that sense, they became friends in a way, even though she was always kind of a bit distrustful of him. And it was super cute when Misha, she almost died when there was like this fire. And at that time, they were like hanging out in the human district and like they just flew there. But, Oraya, she was like scared of flying. So when he said, I'm going to fly there, she was just immediately on board. She was just like, yes, me too. Because she couldn't help herself. Misha was just so lovable. You could not dislike Misha, She's such a cutie. So of course they went to rescue her, and that's when I feel like their friendship really began. And also, in one of those trials, they saved that little girl, human girl. And that was such a beautiful moment because she really didn't want to leave her behind. And also, that was so sad that in these trials, like these humans, they were basically used as props, like as actors that would like pretend that they are part of Neaxia's whatever journey to wherever. So stupid. And this girl, like, she lost her mom there. And the fact that Rain took her to this orphanage and then he took Oraya with him to show her that the girl is okay. That's when I feel like Araya really, really started to trust him. And from there on out, they just really became friends. And of course, like since they were attracted to each other, that friendship grew into something more. And it just, all of it just made sense to me. It was really well written, I think.
Totally. I thought that their relationship progressed naturally. I didn't really consider it a slow burn, though. To me, it was just natural sort of progress, but not to the point that I would say it's a slow burn. It just like wasn't like instant lock Tyson, I'm in love with you. It was just a bit more natural, but I didn't feel like it was like, I mean, Six of Crows, that I consider a slow burn, because it took like two books for anything to happen. Like for me, that's a slow burn, and I love slow burns. Rain and Oraya was just naturally sort of getting to know each other and sort of getting to trust each other more. Yeah, I feel like we could have gotten a few more, I don't know, moments of them training where it wasn't just like, we trained for the whole night, but actually like seeing them, learning how to like where to like stand so that the other one doesn't get, I don't know, punched in the face or something like that, and maybe getting like some inside jokes and stuff like that. I kind of missed getting even deeper into it. The moments that we got were awesome, but maybe it could have been even more pronounced. I suppose the sort of the friendship forming. And I agree about Misha. She's so likable. She's so cute. We didn't find out a lot about her. I really hope we find out more about her. I was so sad that like almost immediately she was eliminated or taken out of the competition because she was hurt. I was like, really? That's all we find out about this character? No, I want to know more. And I mean, we got some, but I hope we get even more because she's just pretty like unique, like different from everyone else in this book. So that's intriguing.
Yeah, in regards to the slow burn, I would say that for me, this is the perfect slow burn. For me, it was a slow burn because they basically started off as like these natural enemies. He's Roshan, she is, at the time, she wasn't really Hiaj, but yeah, she was on that side. They had this natural distrust. Like from the beginning, she kind of connived to eventually kill him when the time comes. Later on, we find out that he was doing the same. He was eventually gonna kill her once he got what he wanted from her. So they were like these like enemies, and like it's an enemies to lovers, essentially, like a story in a way of enemies to friendship to lovers. For me, it is a slow burn because of that reason. I just felt like it was just natural. I think that when you have like enemies to lovers that last for two books, that's too long for me, but for me this was like just the right amount of progression, because for a long while Oraya, she kind of also lied to herself about him. She didn't want to really accept the fact that she might actually like this dude more than just a friend. And even a friend was a lot for her to even like him to that level. So that's why it was a slower burn, because we got her perspective and we saw how she lied to herself in regards to him. And in regards to Misha, I don't really remember the second book that much. I'll have to like watch recaps or something.
Okay.
But I think that yes, we do find out more about her. Can you like remind me what exactly we found about her in this book so that I don't spoil anything?
Sure. So she and Rain are like besties. I think they met after Rain traveled around the world for a while and then like returned back, and she basically convinced him to join the competition because she wanted him to save their people, to have this rebellion, and that wish from the Kajabi was really help with that. So it was like her idea to throw them into that competition
Yeah, that was
basically.
bold.
Yeah. And she has this fire magic that actually comes from a different god. So she was a human priestess for this other god. So she still has fire magic, but it doesn't work all the time. And that really bums her out because she never wanted to be a vampire and she wants the connection to this god, but now she fears that he'll abandon her. Maybe he did because of who she is, like against her will. And then the palace gets exploded and she gets basically rescued and taken to like that place, I suppose, with the rebels where she recovers. That's all we basically got from her.
Yeah, I remember now. Yeah. It was like such a interesting moment, when she was basically dying in that fire and they rescued her and she was like saying, I don't know what she was repeating, but something in the sense that he didn't respond. And of course, at the time, we didn't know who she was talking
Mhm.
about. So it was interesting to find that out, I think. And also, I don't think this is a spoiler, but Misha, I think she will be the main character of the next duology. So we'll definitely
Okay,
find out more about her, and I'm really excited about that because she's an interesting character, so we'll get more of her, don't worry.
nice.
Yes. Okay, yeah, I love some quotes from Rain to Oraya that I have to read. He did not fear my darkness nor pity my compassion, and the truth was the idea of dying without knowing him completely was torturous. And I really like this, how she says that Rain is really the perfect person for her in a way, and how she says, that he did not pity her compassion. And that's so sad to think that people, I mean, in this world, they pity your compassion, compassion and emotions. That's something that's weak. That's something that you should, avoid at all costs.
Mhm.
But Rain, he knew what that was like. He was human once too, so he knows. And he just gets her entirely. He really, really understands her. And I love how they have this deep understanding between them. I liked how he was different in that way from Vincent. He gave her something different. He saw something different in her. And the quote that I wanted to read, but I can't find now, is basically the one where he says that anyone who taught her that she should be anything else, anything other than exactly what she is like basically stupid, and that it's sad that she was taught that. But it also is a bit idealistic because, okay, sure, we find out that she actually has her abilities, that she actually is able to protect herself, but Vincent hid that from her. That's true. But if she were just a normal human living in a castle full of dangerous vampires, like, it would make sense for her to be something else. You know what I mean? For her to put this face on of this badass warrior, to try to fight her way through this life with her fists and stuff. That would make sense for her. It makes sense for Vincent to teach her all of this and to teach her how to hide her emotional side, just because otherwise you die in this world. It's like the same when you said about the Six of Crows, what you said about Matthias, like that you wish he was actually more of a bad person in a way, so that he could survive in that world. And it's the same here. You have to be a
Mhm.
bit more of a badass to survive. It sounds sad, but it's just the way it is. That's the world they live in.
But it's only the way that it is because Vincent took her out of her home against her will,
But
right?
but not true, because like even if she lived in her home with her human family, the vampires still rule over them. I feel like she would be worse off because she probably would never learn how to protect herself. She would never learn how to fight. She would never learn really the brutal reality of the world. And once the vampire is attacked, for example, they would be able to do whatever they wanted to her, and she would never know how to protect herself. And she would probably never even learn about her magic abilities or anything, or how to control them.
Yeah, because she is half vampire. That was Vincent. I don't know. Either fell in love with a human or it was a fucking experiment master plan, whichever, you want to believe. But I mean, she was, she could have, I don't know, it's such a difficult thing to think about, to talk about, because at the end of the day, it still wasn't Oraya's choice where she ended up, where she lived, what kind of life she had. It was all molded by Vincent. You can say, oh, well, yeah, but like it was all for her protection. It was all, to keep her safe. But he was doing that for his own gain. The reason she was in that palace wasn't just because he has a daughter that he loves. Part of it, yes, but another part of it that he wanted something from that relationship, and that's why he taught her the way that he did, and that's why he always had that to fall back on, like, how could you not be grateful? I gave you everything. That's such like a toxic parent thing to say, actually. How dare you be mad that they don't allow you to go out? I gave you a roof over your head. Like, bitch, I didn't ask to be born. You know what I mean? So I did give that sort of sense from Vincent sometimes. I still think he loves her, but it was difficult. And I mean, who can say? Maybe her life, I mean, okay, her house was bombed, but in another life, maybe she would have had a happier life as a human. I mean, she could have been constantly in danger, but maybe her family, like her real family, would be really loving and very kind. Maybe she would, I don't know, go to bars all the time and have fun and be like experiencing all of those emotions the way that humans do. That could have been a beautiful, happy life, having as much as you can in this world, but she'll never get that. She'll never experience that. And it's something that she wasn't in control of. And that's just something that like fucks me up when I think about it.
Yeah,
Right?
but like,
But it's so difficult.
I don't know. I feel like
Yeah.
none of we're not control of anything. Just like you said, we're not asked to be born. And like, sure, in this alternate universe, her life could have been different, but that's not the case. You know what I mean? Her house was bombed. She was found and saved by Vincent. No matter what his motivation was, like you said, at his core, he did kind of love her. So that's what really matters at the end. And I feel like at the end, when he was dying, He said so many mistakes in the end, he choked out, never you. And I don't know, for me, it really felt like his love for her would have won at the end. It's like, for example, I'm going to compare it a little bit with Kaz in The Six of Crows. Everything he did because he could gain something out of it, right? But at the same time, he still loved those people. He just kind of lied to himself a lot of the times about loving them. For example, Violin, he helped him gain his estate back, but that also because he kind of got
Hmm.
revenge on his father. You know what I mean? So he got something out of it, but at the same time, that's not the only reason. At his core, he cares about Violin. And I feel like it's the same with Vincent. At his core, he loves Oraya, but if he can get something out of it too, well, why not, right? So I don't know. I just feel like in the world where she lives, the fact that you have to pretend to be something other than you're not, that you have to like put on this strong face, I feel like it's just better for you. It's the best for you. And it's the same with Matthias. You could argue there too, well, yeah, but what if the ship hadn't wrecked? He could have still lived with his, companions. He would have lived. But look, that's not what happened, right? So it's like in the situation they're in, this is what happened, and this is what was best for her in that sense. So I love that quote, and I love the fact that he loves her for who she is, but in the reality that they were living at, just not being herself kind of served her well too. She survived because of that. So that's why I think it's a bit idealistic to say that. But I love the fact that he loves her for who she is and he doesn't want her to change. And I understand, he sees Vincent from a very objective point of view. He sees him as for who he actually is. He doesn't love him, he doesn't care for him. So it's easier for him to say all of this, but for her, it's not as black and white, sadly. And that's what I love about this book, that it's just so not black and white. It's so gray. I mean, not the book, but the characters in it and their relationships. And I'm glad that she met
Hmm.
Rain, that he could like make her see that and understand that. Because again, like Rain, for example, he was raised in another world. He was actually raised in the human society. So, for him, he
Hmm.
understood that compassion isn't weakness because he was raised there and he knows that it's actually strength. So again, a completely different way of living, completely different way of being raised by, humans. And since she is human and vampire, it's really good that she got this other different perspective too, because she was always fighting this side of her. And now there was finally this someone who could like make her see that she can embrace that and that she can be that too. She doesn't just have to be badass. She can be compassionate, for example, too.
Yeah, I love how they were sort of opposites of each other.
Yeah.
How he was more human internally and she was more vampire internally. So that was really cool.
Yes, it was. And
Hmm.
like we've discussed her internal struggle amongst being a vampire and a human, but also just her internal struggle of differentiating between Vincent the king and Vincent the father. That was also a pattern throughout the book that I really loved. And I could hate Vincent the king, who had slaughtered whatever family I had left, who had overseen the torture of my people, who had relentlessly killed and destroyed. But how could I hate Vincent, my father, who looked at me that way? My anger made everything certain and easy. My love made everything complicated and difficult. I allowed myself to be distracted. It's just so it punches me in the gut because, like, yeah, on one hand, you have this badass warrior Vincent who just slaughters anyone that gets in his way because he just wants to be the super powerful king. But then, like, for example, Oraya is fighting in the ring and she looks over to Vincent and you can, like, see tears in his eyes and you can see how he's literally holding the cage at the edge of his seat, just like so scared for her. You know, I want to be like, I hate this dude. He killed everyone that she cares about. I hate him, but then I see that and I'm like, oh, but no, he does love her. So it just, I love characters like that. I love characters like that because they awake this internal fight inside of me too. Because I'm like, I want to hate you, but how could I when you actually care for her? Like, if only you were raised in a more normal society, what would happen with you? Because when you think about like Ibrahim, right? Like, oh my
Yeah.
gosh, what his parents did to him just so that he could never, usurp them and gain their abilities and shit. This is the society they live in. And Vincent, yet in all of the society, he still kind of tried to move past that, around it, and kind of manipulate it into making Araya his equal so that he's never forced into that position where he has to do that. I just imagine what kind of a person would he be if he was just raised in a normal, caring society.
Yeah. Yeah. That has so much impact on us, our surroundings and the culture and everything. So that's so true. I mean, with Ibrahim, I was honestly a bit confused at that explanation because I mean, I totally get that vampires are immortal, and the only way, to get to power, is is to attack your parents, basically, because they'll never fucking die otherwise, or take a long time to die. So that's how succession works, and that's brutal, and that's scary. I mean, that's going to sound so fucked up and so horrible, but if you're a vampire in like this noble whatever bloodline and you get pregnant and have a kid before you want to give up your throne, like they're ruthless, they're brutal. Why don't they just like murder the kids? Why do they cripple them and let them live and have still this like tiny risk that they'll still kill them once they grow up?
I guess that's their like fucked up way of showing that they care for the kids. They're still their kids. So they probably care enough for them to like,
Yeah.
still care for them to let them survive and become an adult and all of that, but they cripple them just in case if they ever wanted to like take their throne. I mean, power is what matters in this world. So I guess that's how I interpreted it.
Mm-hmm.
And also, Ibrahim, I think he was actually a pretty powerful vampire. That's why his parents feared him, and that's why they did what they did. And the fact that Ibrahim, the way he was, he still came so long in this tournament. I mean, I'm pretty sure that when he was at his full, capacity, he was really, really strong. And also, this is the same for Vincent. He definitely manipulated Araya too in a lot of ways, but I feel like he manipulated her because he was essentially afraid of her. He was aware of her abilities. That's why he hid them from her. He didn't want her to like get into her power before she became his equal. His distrust was so big that he was like scared that she might do something to him, I guess, overtake his throne. Even though like he should have known better, but in his head it was probably like, I did it, I killed my parents did the same with their parents, like again, where he was raised. And like, I love this from Vincent's perspective. He offered his daughter no comfort, no tenderness. Why would he? The world would offer her none either. She should learn this. I mean, literally, like, that's the case. Like, the world would offer her none. The world he lived in, essentially, right? And here, again, from her perspective, both Ilana and Vincent cradled their tenderness in harsh words. They were so different from each other in every other sense, but maybe this place made all of us that way, taught us to hide love in sharp edges.
Mm-hmm. But then we met Misha and then we met Rain, and they manage it. They manage to be strong and powerful and fucking survivors while not losing the spark of humanness and that emotional
But they were
core.
born with that humanness and those emotions. They were raised like that. But Vincent, he was raised as a baby to not be like that. So he doesn't know any different.
No, he doesn't, and that's why he also raised Oraya that way. I guess what I'm trying to say is that I kind of see Oraya as an unreliable narrator. I kind of always have in the back of my mind that she was raised, in this castle. She was practically sheltered. She was just told about the human life. She only saw it at night hunting for vampires and heard all those scary, scary stories. So in the back of my mind, I'm like, maybe there's parts of this world where humans can live and be happy, but that's not the reality that she can perceive because of how her life went and how Vincent taught her because of his own life circumstances. So it was interesting to then get Rain and Misha's perspectives and how they see this world as a bit different. I mean, still very dangerous and still very fucked up, but right, like it's good that she saw that it's not necessarily the only way to be strong is to be emotionless,
Yeah,
right? So I liked
yeah,
that.
exactly. I like that
Hmm.
too. Okay, so we've discussed a lot. What did you think about the trials and the tournament? Like, how did you like that action scenes?
It was fun. I don't have complaints. Pretty much, I enjoyed how they like walked into a portal each time, and there was just like fuckery going on, and they had to like kill each other. Basically, as far as magical tournaments go, it was a magical tournament and it was exciting and action packed. And I mean, obviously, I always knew that Rain and Rev would survive until the end of it. So I wasn't like completely ever nervous for them, but I still, like, enjoyed my time reading them. So maybe the fact that, like, each and every time she was like stabbed or hurt badly, but then like got a magic potion and then like next second she was okay. I was a bit like, that keeps repeating. Maybe something different could happen, but okay, that's like minor things. It's fine.
True. Yeah, I also love the tournaments. I felt like here you also had the right balance between everything. I thought, the trials, they weren't too lengthy, but at the same time, they were just like the right amount of length, I guess. And there was
Hmm.
the way they were made, I thought it was very interesting too. I really like that trial where Rain and Oraya, they had to kind of help each other. It was like a team effort. I don't
Yeah.
remember how it was working, but I know that Oraya, she almost died at that point. It was pretty dangerous. And she came out of it on top, and Rain like looked at her in a way that was just so full of awe and admiration. And I remember how she said,
Hmm.
that no one has ever looked at her that way. And I thought that was really cute. And I also remember that in that trial, Vincent was at the edge of his seat, and when she looked at him, she saw so much fear in his eyes. So I like that. And I also liked the trial when they were like in the woods. And that was actually after
Hmm.
they separated rooms, and that was kind of sad because, like, yeah, sure, they were just like, he was just going into a different room, but at the same time it kind of meant like the ending of something, because at that time they
Hmm.
still thought that eventually they'll have to turn on each other, right? I mean, there is only
Yeah.
one survivor, so they don't have a choice. So it was also kind of a symbol of the ending of something. And then there was the trial the next morning, and they were in the woods, and the animals, they were all poisoned. So she kind of was running across the field to warn him, and then they had to go in that cave, and that cave scene was really sexy. That was really good. So she basically had to feed him, and it made also sense that she had to feed him, like he was weak and shit. And I guess I would just sum it up by saying that I really like the trials, and I don't know what moment it was, but there's like another really powerful quote that I liked about losing one's virginity, because I feel like it's not true just for this book. It's also true in real life, and that's why I want to read it. Strange that girls are so often told that the loss of their virginity marks a threshold between girlhood and womanhood, as if it fundamentally alters them in some way. It was not the sex that changed the girl forever, not the blood that spilled between her thighs that shaped her. The blood that spilled over that marble floor toe, those are the stains on one's innocence that never fade. And I think that's true. It's not about that act, it's about the life that you live and the scars that come along,
Hmm.
the actions that happen in your life, the events that mark you as a human. That's what changes you, not that one night with a boy or a girl or whoever. That's not what changes you, essentially. And I feel
Hmm.
like girls are often like manipulated in that way from an early age. Like, in the past, they were taught that they have to stay, virgins, so that they matter, so that they're important. Because if you're not a virgin, you have been marked and
Hmm.
you're unworthy of anything. And I think that kind of still follows us in today's society, how big of a deal that is. So I really like that quote. And I like, a lot of these quotes in this book because they were just generally so true, just like this one.
Hmm. I like that too. I mean, you're right. It's such a stupid thing. I mean, I feel like totally in our society. I mean, I can't speak for what it's like to be a guy, but as a woman, like, it just like doesn't matter. If you're a virgin, everyone's like, oh, what? How? But if you enjoy having sex and have a lot of sex, then everyone's like, oh, what? You can't do that. Like, it's truly whatever it is that you do, some asshole is going to come along and find a way to judge you for it. And it's just, why is it a big deal? Like, why is it a big deal? If someone chooses, I don't know, to wait until they're 35 because they're happy and that's how they feel, like, why not? But if someone's, having a nice time and enjoying themselves, having a lot of sex, also not a problem. Like, why does society give that much of a shit?
Yeah.
I don't get it.
Exactly, exactly.
you
And
know?
I feel like this
Hmm.
was the message that this quote was giving us, that
Hmm.
that's not what matters. What matters is everything else that happens in your life, that you encounter: friends, family, death,
Hmm.
love, stuff like that. That's what shapes you.
Yeah, and that, everyone is enjoying themselves and having a nice time. And that's what I also liked about intimate moments in this book, was how Rain didn't want to do anything until he was sure that Araya wasn't influenced by, the bite, the toxins.
Yeah.
He wanted to make sure she's enjoying it too. He didn't want to cross over any lines. They were just like really respectful of each other in that sort
Yes,
of sense.
yes.
And I think that is just good. Like, I liked reading this sort of a relationship. I feel like it was done well for me, in
Same,
my opinion.
same. And you know how
Hmm.
there was a part where he kissed her scars that he left on her neck after the bite, and then he also kissed her on the scars that were left over from the other boy. And anyways, we also learn, yes, about this other boy. She was in love with him, he was in love with her, he was a turned vampire, and one night they decided to, have sex, but he lost control sadly because he wasn't in control of his desire for
Hmm.
blood. So what started as something consensual turned into something non-consensual. And of course,
Hmm.
Vincent, he basically found Oraya when she was in that state of fear. He made her essentially kill the boy. And he told her, I told you how vampires are. You have to learn, and this is the way you will learn. And I understood what he was trying to say. I mean, I still think that killing the boy was too much, but like I got where he was coming from again. Like this was his sick way of teaching her a lesson, and this was her first skill. And the way he told her, how she really has to push hard. And then when she did it, she kind of closed her eyes or something, or she looked away. And he told her, no, you don't look away, you always look them in the eyes. And
Hmm.
whenever she killed someone throughout the book, whenever she was like fighting vampires in the district or wherever, that's exactly what she did. She always looked them in the eye. So I love those details, how it really stuck with her, everything he taught her, and it just
Hmm.
marked her. Oh, so good, so good. I like that backstory too with that boy.
Yeah, I have no problems with her killing him, by the way. I think that because of the world that they live in and how she had to learn to survive, it makes sense that she learned to do that and that helped her, right? But at the same time, you could also tell that this taught her to really compartmentalize her emotions, and she still had so much that she hasn't like worked
Hmm.
through. She has so much fear, she has so much anxiety, and she kind of learned the way to deal with fear is to go and stab a couple of vampires to feel better, right? Which, I mean, she saves humans, that's good, but yeah, it's still sad. I kind of wish that she both learned to go and defend herself and other vulnerable people, but also learned that she can harness that fear and those emotions and turn them into something like she learned to use them as magic, right? Later. So yeah, she did that. I was sad though that it took her that
Yeah.
long to figure it out. That was the sad part, yeah. But yes, like she went to just kill a bunch of vampires every single night. And I don't know, do you remember this maybe? How it was described in the book? Because she kept saying that those districts are protected. And I want to find out how are you picturing that? Because I wasn't sure what she actually means. I don't think we got it written, or maybe I'm a dumbass, but I didn't understand what she even means by that because vampires are just like crawling around there, killing with zero consequences, and she's seeing that and she's still like, nope, protected. But like, what does it mean? What does it all mean? Like, is it all just words that technically they can like go complain, but nobody will ever do that, and everything will come from it? But then why does she so purely believe that there's something behind that protection? Because she does believe it, but it's just clearly not true. And also, she could go there every single night, kill like three vampires per night, four vampires per night. And I understand that this is like a huge city with also a very, very brutal, fucked up society. But I still feel like it's odd that no one ever thought that this is odd or strange that those helpless little humans are killing this numbers of vampires every single day. You know, like, wouldn't have some friends or some loved ones of those vampires noticed that, like, strange? Like, they went into like a fucking human district where no one can protect themselves and they're dead and they're gone. Like, no one is looking for this mysterious killer. Like, at least there could have been like, some wanted posters for a mysterious killer or something, that would have been fun, right? Either I'm a dumbass or it was underdeveloped, but maybe I'm a dumbass.
I just imagined it as, that the city's really overpopulated and there's just so many vampires. Also, probably vampires that are homeless, that, also
Hmm.
aren't like really at the top of the food chain, right? They're not like on Vincent
Totally.
level or like a lord. I imagined it as like, you have the king, you have lords and all of that, and then you have just like lower vampires that also no one really cares about, and they just are. So I just
Mhm.
imagine it that no one really cares about these vampires, that no one's even really noticing it, that they just kind of die among
Yeah.
so many people, just like in the Six Crows in Ketterdam, when there's so many people, they like die on the streets and no one even cares, right? They just like pick the bodies up and then they take them to the river and dump them. You know what I mean? That's how I kind of imagined it. And also in regards to, yeah, she just trusted Vincent so hard. When he told her, no, these districts are protected, the vampires aren't supposed to be killing these vampires. But I think he told her at one point that he doesn't have enough of the manpower to actually send them to the city every night to kind of control it. That he just isn't capable of doing that right now, because they were also fighting a war with the Rishan. Something was always going on, so he couldn't kind of spare the manpower to go to the city, and so that's why she kind of
Mm.
decided to do that herself. And that's why she just kind of trusted Vincent, because in her head it just made logical sense. And even when I think about it, it would like also made logical sense to me. If you're like fighting a war, of course you're gonna focus on that. You won't be sparing like these extra vampires to go to the city in that way. So yeah, that's how I imagined it, and I didn't think that more of it. But of course, yeah, all of the points that you just made, good points, make sense. Yeah.
Mhm. Okay, cool. I would have liked to think that if I was in this position, I would start to be a little bit doubtful
Yeah,
in Araya's
yeah.
spot.
I honestly, I'm sad to say this, but when I love people, I also have like a really, I don't know, sometimes a blind faith in them, honestly. I also don't
Mhm.
really doubt them. I don't doubt them until they prove to me that I should doubt them, right? So I always just trust
Mhm.
people immensely. And when they betray me, that's when I learn. And that's when I see glitches everywhere I look at. So I could understand Araya in the sense she
Yeah.
loved Vincent. She really trusted him. He was the only person that ever really protected her and taught her anything. So she just had this blind
Mhm.
faith in him until someone came along that made her question it.
Yeah. Wow, that makes sense the way you describe it. I mean, yeah, on one hand, that's such a good trait, but at the same time, it's so sad that it got betrayed like that.
Yeah,
Oh,
I know.
yeah, it's sad. From my perspective, I kind of feel like I'm a bit too much of an overthinker. It takes like a while for me to trust people, and so like once I trust someone, like that's it, I trust them. So I mean, yeah, if Vincent was my dad, it would be hard, right? But I feel like it takes a lot for me to get to that level. And until then, I would be overthinking the little details and be like, okay, but why are you not doing what you said that you would do? So I don't know how, actually, I don't know how I would react on the rare spot, but I was a bit, yeah.
I mean, that's good in the sense that you're not naive, I guess. So it's good not to be naive because, like, I am a little naive. I am also an overthinker, but I become an overthinker when I come to the point that I can see that I can trust the person. But until you
Mm.
prove me
Hmm.
otherwise, I will just trust you. I will believe in you. I won't even question you, honestly. But yeah, once you do something, that's when I'm like, well, shit. And that's when I start overthinking everything. When it's too late, essentially. But at the same time, I guess a part of me is glad that I am the way I am because at the same time it's also a good trait until you get screwed over. um
No, it's other people that are idiots.
that's
It's
true.
good to be
That's
trusting.
true. Oh, thank you.
Hmm.
Okay. Okay, now let's jump to the end when everything goes down. But before
Hmm.
we jump to the end, I just want to again read a quote from Vincent that I really liked. I think it was actually like
Hmm.
at the end of the book. But before I could turn, he caught my arm, gripping so hard his fingernails dug into my flesh. I won't tell you to be careful, Oraya. I won't tell you because I know you are. I taught you to be resilient, clever, fast, focused, vicious. You must be all of it now. You have no room for weakness or missteps. Emotions rarely showed on Vincent's face, but now I caught a glimpse, only a glimpse, of some strange tenderness shivering across the cold muscles of his expression, gone before either of us could or would acknowledge it. Just I'm a
Yeah.
sucker for these moments, when you see just like this stuff male who doesn't show any emotion and then like you just get a glimpse of it, just for you. I'm a sucker for that. Ugh. Okay. So yeah, the final trial, I suppose. I imagine it like is a gladiator arena that's separated into different little arenas. Araya,
Hmm.
she's fighting like some of the gods that were fighting Neaxia. I also, by the way, like this concept that Neaxia basically reinvents everything that happened to her and just kind of like it's
Yeah.
interesting, I think. And then like the other warriors, Ibrahim and that other vampire lady that's really badass and Rain.
Hmm.
So, anyways, once they defeat them, oh my gosh, the first one to win were Oraya and Ibrahim. That was, by the way, so sad when Ibrahim came out of his own little
Mhm.
arena. Everyone was like laughing at him because he just like was in a bad state. And I was just like, you bitches, why are you laughing? This guy who's basically crippled came to the end. He's like among the finalists. He
Exactly.
survived for so long. Like, none of you would be able to come as far as he did. And you're like, what, laughing? The
Yeah.
fuck? You know, it's just so messed up. So when she ended up killing him, he actually said to her that he was glad it was her, that he's glad it's her who is killing him. I mean, that was so sad. I felt for him. I felt for him, and I respected him so much. But yeah, anyways, then the final battle began between her, Rain. I mean, Rain was kind of on the sidelines, but that vampire lady, she pretty much
Mhm.
almost killed Araya. Like, Araya was convinced that she was dying, but then she kind of saw
Yeah.
something. She saw, like, Rain had this panicked look on his face, and he was looking over to that vampire lord from the House of Blood. What was his name again? Fuck, I
Mhm.
forgot. But I just have to mention, I forgot to mention this before, but when Araya met him, they were like on the shore somewhere. She ran into him, and I think he gave her a cigar or something, cigar, and they talked for a second there. And I just had a sense that he was gonna be someone really important, and I still actually think that he's gonna
Mhm.
be someone really important. I really liked him because the way he talked, he seemed very like one of those charming characters, one of those that just, they mean
Mhm.
something, right? So yeah, it was
Mhm.
interesting when Rain, kind of nodded to him, and then the vampire lady, she just kind of gave up, and she just told her, good luck. And then Araya killed her, and like, that when she told her good luck, something was up, something bad was going to happen, because why would she say that? So yeah, I had no idea. Did you have any theory at this point, like what that look Rain offered him meant? Like, obviously some deal was struck, but I don't know.
Look, I have finished this book and I still have no idea what happened there. So I concede I am a fucking idiot. But okay, let's just jump a bit ahead. But I think the thing is, he made a deal with this dude to like get his armies to attack with the Rishan, to overthrow Vincent, right? But then he like nodded to him because he knew that he would die and wouldn't be able to hold up his end of the bargain. But then he didn't even need to nod. If he didn't want to hold up his end of the bargain, if he didn't want the blood army to come in, he could have just like not acknowledge him and die, right? That would have had the same conclusion.
Yeah,
Or
but
am I
it
stupid?
would mean that Oraya was dead too. He wanted Oraya to survive
Why?
because he loves her.
No, 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 no. But yeah, but that was Rain's plan, was to like get killed by Oraya, you know? So why did he not? Because if he was dead, then the deal wouldn't be happening. But then he sort of explained that he nodded because he knew Oraya would kill him and that the deal wouldn't be happening. But then the deal,
But like,
if you die, the deal isn't
he
happening
nodded
either
so
way.
that he gave like this vampire, he gave him the confirmation that he would do it. I think the thing was that he wasn't sure if he was gonna do it. So when he gave him the nod, he confirmed that he was gonna do it, but he probably gave him like a term that, like, if Araya survives, that's like, I don't know. Now you confuse me a little bit, because the thing is that I finished this book a few months ago, and now I don't even remember
Hmm.
anymore. But I think it made sense. Or maybe we find out in the second book what that meant.
Definitely, I will reread it. I think I already read it twice, but I'm still, something's not clicking for me, and I fully accept that this could be just like my small, tiny brain that's not grasping it, and not bad
I mean,
writing.
I'm kind of sad about it, because like, now that we're talking about it, I wish we would
Hmm.
like understand so that we can like explain it here in the podcast, but yeah, maybe we find out in the second book what that meant exactly. But yeah, anyways, once
Hmm.
he gave like the nod, the vampire, he kind of told the lady warrior to just kind of back off. So Oraya ended up killing her. And then, Rain and Oraya, they were like fighting to the death, and they were like really going at it. But of course, you know, Rain's plan was never to actually kill Oraya. So that was kind of really sad, because she didn't want to either, but he kind of pushed the blade himself inside of
Yeah.
him. And I don't remember the words that he gave her, the last words, but I remember I was really sad. I was like, what the fuck just happened? I knew he wasn't gonna die. I knew he was kind of gonna be brought back to life somehow. But, usually I don't like these kinds of plot lines, I guess, where the person dies and then he's
Hmm.
brought back. But I don't know. In this case, I did like it just because it made sense. The tournament, it was supposed to end by one winner. So I guess that made sense. And of course, like when Oraya got her wish. Oh my gosh. By the way, that was such a good moment when she decided what she was going to say. And there was this line like, Vincent had taught me to always look them in the eyes while I was killing them. So that's exactly what I did.
Hmm.
And she looked Vincent in the eyes across the room when she said what she said, that she wants Rain to be the victor of the Kajari. And that was so
Yeah.
mindfuck because honestly, I actually thought that she was gonna say that she just wants Rain to be alive. I didn't think she was gonna
Hmm.
say that
Hmm.
she wants him to win, right? So I was like, why didn't you just
Hmm.
say that you want Rain to survive? Like, why not just that?
Maybe she felt so undeserving of this position. And as soon as she got the win, she was like, that's not right. I should not have this. He's the one who deserves this. And that's why it wasn't even like, I want him to survive. It was, I want him to have what I have right now.
Yeah,
So maybe that was her.
true.
Yeah, I think that makes sense as her thought process in a sense. I mean, I was sort of delusional and I sort of thought that they would both somehow survive the final tournament, like that neither of them would even die, because I think beforehand there was a mention that there were tournaments in the past where more than one person survived. So I thought that, maybe they'll find a way, like Peter and Katniss when they both wanted to, poison themselves and then they were both victors. So I thought, okay, they'll like find some sort of a
Mm-hmm.
loophole. But then, right, like immediately as Rain quote unquote stabbed himself with, I mean, Oraya stabbed him, whatever. Yeah, I was like immediately like, okay, she's bringing him back.
Yeah.
No other scenario can possibly happen. So I wasn't even. I read the rest of the chapter or like the next chapter, being like, okay, 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 save him, whatever. Just like waiting for that moment that it happened. So I wasn't paying attention too much. So maybe that affected the way I understand things. Anyways,
What was Rain's wish? I forgot what exactly he wished for.
let's get into it. So, what I was thinking while I was reading this chapter, and as she gave him her wish and that victory, I assume that she understands what she is doing, because beforehand, the night before, they had this conversation, and they had more of those conversations in the past where Rain was basically like, I hate your dad. Your dad did horrible things to my people. He killed 500,000 people. He oppressed us, blah, blah, blah. And I want to rescue my people. I want to rescue Rishan. I want to make a better kingdom. And Oraya was listening to him, comprehending his words, and was like, okay, work. Like, I want you to have this victory. And then in the trial, she was like, I want him to have this victory. And then Ray was like, sick, I have this victory. I'm gonna go fight your dad and also save my people. And then Ray was like, what are you doing? How could you do that? What? That's impossible. And I was like, wait, were we not meant to see this coming? Were you not meant to see this coming? I thought as she was reviving him that she knew that this would happen. And then she was shocked.
I
Did you not listen to
I how to say this? I feel personally attacked right now because I was just like Rhea. I was like, what are you doing? I was a Rhea bitch. Like the first person who worked on me, I turned into this senseless person who doesn't have a brain or something because like I know everything he said about Vincent. I was reading it
him?
too and I knew he hated him and all of that, but I don't know. I just thought he loved Oraya so much. He like knows that she in her fucked up way loves Vincent. She is his daughter in every way that matters.
Hmm.
So I was just like, I mean, surely he knows this so he won't kill the guy. I guess in my head, I didn't think he was gonna take the throne. I don't know what I thought his wish was gonna be. I just knew the moment like that she got her wish, that she wants him to be the victor. That's when it clicked for me. Well, fuck, what is he gonna do now? I mean, obviously he'll do something. Or I don't know. I actually, oh no, you know what I thought? I just remembered. You know what the thing was with me? I thought she was the victor, so she wished for him to be the victor. But I thought that was the wish. I thought, like, okay, now he was gonna become the winner, supposedly, but he won't get his wish. You know what I mean? I thought the wish was
Mm.
already spent. So I just thought he was gonna
Mhm.
be made
Okay.
the winner and that's it. I didn't think he would get the wish. That's what happened with me. Yeah, that's why when he got offered the chance to wish, I was like, oh fuck, well, what is he gonna wish for? And then, yeah, like I explained, he loved Oraya. He knows about Winston, so I thought surely he's not gonna kill him. I thought maybe he was just gonna like really hurt him severely and just like capture him and
Mhm.
I don't know, imprison him somewhere far, far away. That's what I thought.
Mhm.
I mean, stupidly, because naively, because at the end of the day, we know the world, is brutal. But yeah, like I said, I just didn't think he was actually gonna do that. And when he did, I was just sad. Like the whole scene was so sad to me. I actually cried. I cried when, he died. And, she was really trying to get to him. She was screaming and she
Mhm.
couldn't. And I remember how she said something among the lines, I had to watch from a distance how rain stabbed my hotter right through the heart or something like that. He didn't stab him through the heart, but
Mhm.
that was just so sad. And then when she could, she rushed to him, and that's what Vincent told her, I have made many mistakes, but never you, Oraya. And then he died. And he told her in this moment too, if I'm correct, right, that she's his daughter, that he's actually her father,
Yeah.
right?
I think so, yeah. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that was just
Oh,
so
or it was because the mark appeared on her, and that's, like, when this clicked.
yeah,
Maybe that
that
was
was
it.
when it clicked for her, but I think he said something like, I wanted to tell you sooner or something, but he
Ah, yeah,
couldn't
yeah,
finish
yeah.
the sentence because, well, he was gone at that point.
Mhm.
And then the mark appeared on her, and then, like, we knew, well, shit, he was literally her dad.
Mhm.
And that's when I lost my shit. I was just like, no, I need to learn more. I need to know how he's her dad. How did he meet her mom? I want more of Vincent. And I was just crying my eyes out. And also, like, I'm a sucker for dad daughter relationships, listeners, if you don't know that, but I am. So this was just heartbreaking for me. And I really was sobbing here. I had to like actually at that time I was reading on my phone. So I had to put my phone away and just like chill for a second. Yeah. What did you think about this whole? Did it make you sad?
The thing is, I kinda saw all of it coming. I mean, honestly, the fact that Vincent died, I did not see this coming. I only thought that Rain's wish would be to overthrow the king and save Rishan people, but I did not think that this was meant to be a secret from Oraya, because she even thought, he deserves this wish more because he wants to save his people. So I was like, so she knows, so we know.
But
So my feelings were more confusion. In this moment, my feelings were more confusion.
I'm just curious, how could you have thought that Aurea would want her dad to die?
No, right. I mean, I didn't think that he would die.
Oh,
But
right,
I
right.
did think that a war would happen. I thought that, warriors would come in and then Rishan would start fighting the Hiaj. So I thought that it was clear, it was supposed to be clear to us that this is what Rain is going for. But yeah, and I thought that maybe, Vincent is so powerful that they would like fight, but maybe Rain wouldn't win or something. Like, I didn't think that it would actually come to Vincent dying like right now. I totally didn't see
But
that coming.
see, exactly, like, since we didn't see that, it's probable that Rhea also didn't. She probably didn't think Vincent was actually gonna die. You know
No,
what I
no.
mean? So that's why she was like shocked about it. I think it was finally coming to her, oh my gosh, like, what did I do? He's gonna kill him. And when she saw how they were fighting, how they were going at it,
Mhm.
and then when it happened, she was just like, what the fuck? He actually killed him.
I think, yeah, but I think she was shocked like before he even started attacking Vincent. Like, that's the way I
Oh.
picture it right now. So that's what I was confused about. But then, once he actually, started to win in that fight, whatever, that's when I was shocked. But then again, I had like this a bit of confusion where I felt like maybe I misunderstood something or was missing something because of just how the scene went. It was so sad though that yeah, she had to like fight to get to her dad and to hear his last words, and she didn't get to say I love you. Like yeah, that
Yeah.
totally tugged at my
Oh my
heartstrings. That was so
god, that was so
sad.
sad. I was so
Yeah.
sad about that. Did he tell her he loves her at the end?
Yes.
Oh my
Yes.
god.
And she didn't get to
Because
say
he
it
was
back
so
in time.
frozen. Yeah, I remember now. The first time he told her
Hmm.
he loved her. Oh, that was so, yeah.
Damn it. Yeah. But also with the mark on Rain, I also kind of saw that
I
coming.
didn't.
I just knew that. I mean, we heard about those marks. We heard that Rishan have also this mark that didn't appear for ages, and I knew that Rain's purpose was to save his people. So I was like, okay, he's going to be the next king. So once the mark appeared, I was like, well, yeah. Totally did not see it coming for Oraya though. That was like completely shocked because she's human, right? So I was totally not seeing that, but for Rain, I
I
did.
mean, now that I think about it, I think that yeah, when we generally learned that hasn't been air, Rishan air for a long time, I knew, yeah, I knew that it is
Hmm.
probably rain. I just didn't really, get how it could be rain. Like he used to be human. Like how does this make sense,
True.
right? So that was why I was still a bit confused. Like, sure, okay, it makes sense. Of course, it's him, but at the same time, how exactly is that possible? So yeah, that, but like still when it happened everything was super dramatic and stuff, so I really really like the dramatics of it. And yeah, of course Rain also had to pretend that he doesn't care about her, that he's just gonna like rape her and use her just so to get back at Vincent even more, to get like their vengeance for their queen, right? She was also really hurt by Vincent. So yeah,
Hmm.
eventually at the end we basically see that Oraya and Rain get married, so they become husband and wife, which was also interesting.
Hmm.
At this point I just really was sad about the whole situation because I thought to myself, how will they ever get back from this? Like, Rain killed her dad, how will you ever
Yep.
forgive something like that? Never, right? So I was just like, I feel like this is gonna be a tragic end to their storyline, like to their love story. I just didn't see how they would ever get over that. I know, Vincent wasn't perfect, and Araya, she's discovered that more and more in this book, but still, like, I mean, this man, like, he killed him. Still, that's like, was still your dad, and you still love him.
Hmm.
So, damn.
I mean, yeah, I was not completely thrilled with the fact that this is how it went.
Yeah,
Oh, maybe I'm too thinking too rationally about it or not rationally enough, but I was just thinking that maybe they could have even talked beforehand, maybe came up with some sort of a plan together, that maybe didn't involve
true.
killing
Just
Vincent.
communicate.
Yeah, if they're so similar, if they're on the same page, if they want a different future for vampires and humans, maybe instead of, having sex for 18 hours, they could have, sat down and come up with a plan how they can, like, both survive and maybe both take that power, and he wouldn't have had to lie to her about everything. Or in my head, he wasn't even lying. In my head, I kind of got what he's saying, and maybe I'm psychic or delusional, but that's why I wasn't so shocked. But he could have been even more honest, and then she could have convinced him, like, don't kill my dad, take him prisoner or let me talk to him or something. But yeah, maybe I could kill you and then use my wish to bring you back to life, and then you can show your mark, but then we can, like, pretend that we hate each other so we get married. I feel like this could have all been communicated and made into,
True,
like, this really cool
true.
plan. I don't know though.
I know.
Maybe I'm
I
overthinking it.
guess I guess he just really didn't wanna tell her about this plan, I guess. I mean, he just assumed she would really feel betrayed. I don't know. And also, like, his plan was to die. That was the plan he concocted in his head. Like, it's so interesting because
Hmm.
he literally sacrificed himself just so that he didn't have to go through with it. He didn't want this burden. He literally didn't want it. He didn't want to be the one to kill her dad, but he knew that if he survived he
No.
just had to do it. There was no other way out of it. So the fact that she actually was the one to cause all of this, oh my gosh, that's actually so sad, because
Yeah.
she won. She could have gotten what she wanted. She could have become this super powerful girl and her dad would still be alive and all of that. So fuck, it's
Hmm.
so messed up that he literally did this for her, and then he had no other choice. So I felt like actually when he died, when he made her kill him, I think he was at peace with himself, you know I really thought he was at peace with what
Yeah,
he was doing. So she kind of screwed him over in a way, because of course she couldn't handle the fact that he didn't deserve that. But
yeah.
still.
Yeah, he kind of said that he expected that she'll, use her wish in a similar way to him, but maybe with less bloodshed, with maybe a more elegant plan or something like that. That, she'll still be on the same page as him with like uniting the vampires and whatnot. And that's why he like gave up. And on the one hand, that's like, mind blowing. But on the other hand, that's when I was thinking, like if you knew that yesterday or 2 days ago, why not talk it out? Why not create this like fucking cool plan to maybe Vincent didn't even have to die
Yeah.
and you would already be on the same page, right? But
Yeah.
maybe I'm thinking too rationally about this, and that's not, and it's more dramatic to happen the way that it
Exactly.
happened.
It's
I don't
it's
know.
literally for drama purposes. And also, like, I mean, I guess I can like be the devil's advocate and just say, this whole relationship, everything about Vincent, her, and Rain is super complicated. It's super gray,
Yeah,
so I guess it's not
yeah,
as simple as just being open about it and saying it, like, and all of them, they all have their ideas in their head about what's right for each other. They all think
yeah.
in that way, and Rain, he was just convinced that what he's doing is the right thing, and that's it, so in that way he's kind of similar to Vincent, because he's the same, like, what I say is the right thing, and you can't convince me of anything else at this point, so whatever.
Hmm.
Yeah. And like when
Hmm.
Rain basically offered her his throat at one point, I don't know where they
Hmm.
were exactly, but he just kind of was unbuttoning his shirt, and then he was just like, "Can you come over here for a second, please?" And he was unarmed while she was armed. So in that moment, she kind of realized that he was basically offering himself to her. Like she could kill him in that point, and she didn't. So he said, "Are you going to kill me, Oraya?" I didn't run, didn't move. Instead, I lay my palm flat against his chest. I surprised even myself when I replied, "Not tonight." His hand slid from my face and swept a stray strand of black hair from my cheek, smoothing it to the side. But instead of withdrawing, his fingers tightened around my hair, clutching it, but not pulling, as if he was trying to convince himself to let me go and failing. "You might destroy me anyway." I live
Hmm.
for these quote. I don't know. I know you said you don't like the writing, but I just love this writing. I just these dialogues, these thought processes, I just love all about it, and I love it. And that's what I'm gonna conclude this episode with. And if there's anything else you would like to add, Anya, be my guest.
Hmm. I think that there were poetic moments in this book that were really, really nice and really like evocative of emotions. But I also feel like this book could have been better if, of course, this is a self-published author, so I'm so far away from that world. I don't know how any of this works, but one more round of editing I feel like could have been even better, because it could have been even more polished, and the moments that threw me off could have been edited and gone, and it would have flown even better. Flow, writing flows. uh, that's why I'm not a writer. That's like what threw me off the most. It was like there were moments in this book that didn't flow right, because, for example, I never ever got the critique in books that there was too many bad words or the characters swear too much. I was always like, why is it a big deal if grown adults swear in a book? Like, I never thought of it as anything to critique a book on. Like, it always felt natural to me in every other book I've read. And in this book, a lot of the times the swearing threw me out. I don't even know how to describe it. It was like the sentence wasn't edgy enough, so she just like threw a swear word in to like make sure it's edgy. So it didn't feel natural. It was overused, is what I would say. And also the caps lock was overused. So often it was just like smash, crack, boom, fuck. I mean, what is it? Me writing in the notes about 2 a.m. or is it a book, Bitch, I mean, And I mean, I'm not a snob. I feel like that could be used very powerfully. But when it's happening in every chapter, it loses that power. I'm like, okay, something cracked. Okay, well, so I mean, those are, I think, deliberate writing choices, and that's the way that she wants her prose to be like. And I am certain that many people love it, right? And it's just a me thing that it throws me out and not does what it's supposed to do. So I'm not being like a hater to everyone who loves this style of writing. I think it's wonderful if people love it.
Yeah, I don't think this ever bugged me. I don't feel like I love it, but I never was bothered by it either. So for me, it was just like, there, the swear words and everything, but they never threw me out of it. So yeah. Okay. So I guess this is the end of this episode. We've come, yeah, 2 hours in. I thought this was gonna be shorter, honestly, but of course not. Like, I always think this. It's
Oh.
getting repetitive. It's hilarious. Every time we start recording an episode, I'm always like, yeah, this is gonna be like probably 1 hour, 1 hour and a half, like the max. And no, it always ends up being 2 hours. It's just crazy. But I don't. I'm not disturbed by it. I love the fact that we have so much to say. But yeah, listeners, hopefully you like this episode. Let us know what you think
Mhm.
of the book. Do you like the writing style, or are you more like, no? Contact us on Instagram or TikTok. We are More Than Fiction Pod. Also, share this with your
Mhm.
friends, this podcast. We would really appreciate it. Rate us. Just the more engagement we get, the better it is for this community, the more we can grow, and the more fun it will be, right?
Totally. We love to hear from you, whether, you totally agree with everything that we say or you have something interesting to add about this book or anything else we discuss. We love it. So please join us. If any of your friends love this book, tell them about this episode. We would also love to get more people in. And the next week, there will be another installment of the Nyaxia series. So I hope to see you there. I hope I love the second book more. I hope I love the novella more. I don't want to be a hater, but there we are. But I'm happy that you heard me out, and that's why we have this venue, and that's why it's fun.
Exactly. Yes, in the next episode, we'll be discussing the novella and the second book. So just two in one. Yeah, okay.
Yes.
Thank you for listening, guys, and see you next time. Bye.
Bye, everyone.